First of all, it's important to know that spirituality in Africa is lived. It's not practiced. It's lived. You know?
That's it.
Because it is about the way you welcome people into your home. It's about the way you feed that. You feed any. It's been difficult for me because I've had more of an Indian upbringing, and a more European Indian upbringing, right? So when you invite people to your home, for example, you invite them and then they come, and then you calculate how much you have to cook, and then you cook that much, right?
Yes.
I'm married to a Kenyan, and anybody can rock up, with like 5 other people. You know what I'm saying? Like, and for a dinner, not even just for a party, just like literally for a dinner or lunch. Wow. So you could invite like 3 people, but you end up having like 8. So and the funny thing is, like, there's always enough.
Isn't that crazy? There's always enough.
They're not calculating.
Yes.
It's not a place where you do a lot of calculation.
Welcome to Blacks into Africa. I'm Tadre Moignet, a California native living her best life in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you for coming along for the ride. I hope that you are informed, entertained, and inspired to Blacks. Okay, I am so happy to have my spiritual advisor here. This is Neha. Neha, please tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi everyone, my name is Neha, and I am a teacher, a healer, an intuit, a facilitator. I work in the realm of spirituality, spiritual philosophy, but my particular area of expertise is how do we apply it in our lives and in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Spolosophy.
Spolosophy, spiritual, political philosophy.
Yes. Okay. So I wanted to have you on because the focus of today's discussion is spirituality in Africa. That's an extremely broad topic, right? Neither one of us has been to all of the countries. Mm-hmm. But for me, I'm really on this quest to just elevate higher, to vibrate higher, and really to seek out spirituality in a deeper way. And I think that there are other people out there who are interested in repatriating to Africa who are also on a similar path. And they also want to know about spirituality and how it's expressed here. So I want to just start out by saying that one of the things that has been disappointing, I guess would be the right way to say, is that, Africa is very much Christian, very much conservative in many ways. And of course, there's Islam and there's other religions, but it's typically, Christianity or Islam. And anything that is contrary or doesn't fit within those small scopes is deemed witchcraft. And so, with me being from LA, which is its own little planet, it's really easy for me to stumble into a meditation center on the main street, or a store that sells crystals and incense and does tarot readings and palm readings and stuff like that. If you're somebody who lives in New York, it's so easy to stumble into like a botanica. New Orleans is a similar space like that. But Africa, no. And not that those are really like spirituality. However, it's alternative to what we typically learn about in Christianity. So I was really happy when I found you, and I found her at a women's event. And we had to get up and, introduce ourselves. And you talked about Spolosophy, and you were like, I'm a healer. And I was on the panel, and I was like, yes, I need to talk to her afterwards,
Yeah, and my eyes were going the same way to you. I'm like, this beautiful woman who is like deep and interesting and powerful.
Thank you. Yeah. And since meeting you, I've been able to tap into the spiritual community or alternative healing community in Kenya. So we've got Conscious Kenya, we've got Divine Feminine. What else do we have?
Those are I would say those are two of the like groups that me and you share that are for me enough actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these are WhatsApp groups, and they're friendly spaces, they're safe spaces, and it's just nice to see people having a conversation, a dialogue about something other than Jesus. And this is no offense to anyone who's Christian or Muslim, because we all have our own paths. I was raised Christian. I was a volunteer in the youth ministry. Of course, I went to Bible studies, all of that. But then as I grew and I learned more about the history of Christianity and the Bible, I was like, my questions began to increase, and I'm over here with spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you about your journey, which I think is very interesting. Like your journey with your family, because you shared with me about your father and how he is just a really special person. And then your journey professionally, and also this calling inside that led you on this path.
Wow, that's a beautiful question. Yeah, I mean, I started out as the daughter of a great man, you know, professionally, let's say. My father worked in South Sudan for, I don't know, 20, 30 years. And he did incredible work there in grassroots community work. During a war, he lived there. He chose to live his life, you know, in difficult, circumstances. He was really a man of the mission. You know, he was a missionary, but not of the Christian faith.
Okay.
But of human self-sufficiency, of human dignity, of human strength.
What was his title? What organization did he
work
with?
He was a doctor, and he started an organization called Action Africa, Help International.
A medical physician.
He was a medical doctor, so he really started a lot with health programs. But he was actually, by heart, he was like an economist, agriculturalist. He was a practical man. It was very different than me, because for me, I don't have any inclination towards these practicalities of life, you know. But he really knew how to create things that worked in the long term, in a practical way.
Yeah.
You know. So, and he was very much focused on people's basic needs, so health, agriculture, food production, education, that kind of stuff. And basically, his mission was to show a particular group of people who are the South Sudanese that they can thrive and be self-sufficient even in a war.
Wow.
Even in a 20, 30 years war.
Brutal.
And he managed to show that. He managed to do that with the people. And he was very much a person of helping people to own their own power, to own that journey. So he's very different than most of the, let's say, aid workers and aid institutions.
Yeah.
So I guess growing up, I was taught that if you're not serving society, then you're not doing anything. I think there's probably a good side and a bad side to that lesson. And now I realize the bad side about that lesson, which I think I will come back to probably in the story, but it's where I've reached now. So anyways, I went off and I kind of followed in his footsteps. Somehow or the other, I didn't choose to do that, I kind of just ended up doing that.
You followed in his footsteps as...
I ended up going to South Sudan. I didn't choose that. He actually was worried about me, what I was doing in life, so he's like, go and volunteer here.
Okay.
And he actually didn't tell me he wanted me to volunteer in South Sudan. He said, you can come to Nairobi and you can do some website work for us and write our story and stuff like that. And then when I got here, he's like, I've changed my mind. I think you can go into South Sudan, live there, and you can volunteer there. And I'm like, I was a city girl. I was brought up in Nairobi. Yeah. You know, it's a good life here.
Yeah.
You have fun, you go out. I was a very city girl. But anyways, I ended up going out there, and I had an incredible time. And I found what I really loved, which was over those years, I mean, it was over 10, 15 years in the end.
Wow.
But I really ended up realizing that I liked to make big change. So I started in a small village, and I kind of ended up running an organization that was doing like peace processes with communities, but in the aim of doing a huge process for the country, creating a huge internally led process for the country. Just before that, I had worked with a diplomatic panel. It was a mediation panel. I mediated the divorce between Sudan and South Sudan. And it was led by 3 Pan-Africanist presidents. Very amazing people. The staff were also equally incredible. And I saw power, like I was in the corridors of power. I was working with those agents of power at the highest level of governance. And I learned so much, and it was very exciting, and it was a really, I grew hugely. But it was also a world of ego. And you stay in there long enough, and yours just also becomes like that. And I also realized that even though there was so much power, there was a system that was at play. And no matter what we were trying to do, that system didn't really change much.
What was the system?
The system is something I call the deep state.
Okay.
Or the mirage state. It's basically a system of accumulation of wealth for what we could call the ruling class of society. Yeah. And this system is at play in almost every single government or state in the world. You know, basically there are a few people who control or who operate a system of wealth extraction and accumulation for themselves, and the rest of society generally, this is quite general, you know, the rest of society generally is just the tools for the extraction of the wealth for themselves. Okay? And you know, you could this is very much relevant to Africa, because you know, it started, you can trace this back to, like, you know, even perhaps ancient civilizations, or let's talk about feudalism, you know, British feudalism, or any kind of society, the monarchies. It's the same kind of system. Now the colonials, I don't really understand. I mean, there's a lot of, I haven't understood deeply enough what was here before colonialism in terms of governance. We know a few things, but really to understand what kind of system was at play, I haven't been able to, because I haven't experienced it, right?
Okay.
But with colonialism, it was very clear they brought that system in, right? So few were in the ruling class, and the British created the ruling class,
right?
And they also, how do you say, left and put in another ruling class in some sense,
right?
And legitimized another ruling class. So we moved from the white colonial to the black colonial, right? And the system has stayed the same no matter who is in government. So it's not really about bad people, it's about a system. And that system is really a reflection of the consciousness of man at that time. You know?
I want to go back to what you said about the negative side to serving. And you said that's where you are now.
Yeah.
What's the negative side to serving?
Okay, so after all this period, I had my son, and then I was really exhausted. I was running a small organization for 6 years in a very challenging environment, and it was exhausting, mainly, to be honest, because of the supporters of organizations. They really became dominators to the organizations. So the donors who generally support organizations and are supposed to be the supporters of the work that these organizations are doing, they ended up becoming the masters.
Oh, right, because they hold the purse strings.
Exactly. And the problem with that is that that's not their role, and they don't have the understanding of societies to become masters.
Right.
They move every 2 years, every 3 years. They're bureaucratic institutions. They don't live with people. They stay in their specific spaces. So anyways, it was very exhausting, and Um, in some ways, it was also traumatizing, like the experience we had. But I basically thought to myself, you know, I just want my work to be my joy. That's what I want now.
Okay.
I don't want to have a mission anymore.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So
That's
this is
why.
coming to the
Yeah.
this is coming to the negative side of it. Because the negative side of it is we think that serving society means doing things for others.
Yeah.
Now, I started with this question of I just want just this desire, I want my work to be my joy and my joy to be my offering to the world.
Okay.
Okay? And what that led me to, which was the whole process and a journey into, is what I'm doing today, which is, you know, doing this healing work, teaching, facilitating, teaching, and teaching about the deeper wisdom that can actually give us the power to transform our world and our lives.
Yes.
Right? And what's happening now is I'm realizing that the change that is happening with the people that I'm working with now is just beautiful. It's not a fight. I'm not fighting anything anymore. I'm helping people to evolve, to grow, to expand, to connect, to become more authentic, to become more powerful. And they are going out to do all the things that they really desire to do in the world. They're ending up doing what they love, right? And that's creating change. Because that's how the world changes, you know? It's because people put their authentic creation into the world. So you see, from following my joy, I'm serving the world. Mm-hmm. So that's where that putting the service first has a dark side, which is that you bypass your own joy.
You deplete yourself in the process.
And and you're carrying the weight of the outside world.
That's so true. And I think this is so important for people who are activists, right? Because activists tend to suffer a lot, you know, putting the world first. I think about, let's just say Martin Luther King. We can choose anyone really, but let's just say Martin Luther King. You know, his family suffered. You know, his family suffered when he was out in the world, you know, activating, you know, and of course they suffered when he transitioned as well, you know. But I think we're at a place energetically, as far as the planet is concerned, where you can do this work, this internal work that does shift the energy around you. And that's definitely where I am as well. Like yourself, I achieved quite a bit very early on, and just doing what, you know, initially doing what I was told to do, what my parents and teachers told me to do, but then also, you know, following my bliss, you know. So I majored in sociology because I love the study of societies and people, you know. I minored in African studies because I've always felt a kinship with Africa. But I'm done with the doing. I'm pretty much done with the doing. And now I'm just in this space of being. But I wanted you to share your story because it's just interesting to see the arc of life, you know, and how someone can start out very academic, very practical, and then following their path and being authentic, you know, end up in a place that they never thought they would be.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So if you could just tell our viewers the more practical side, the more tangible side, because when I met you, people were like, well, where is she from? I was like, I don't really know. So you are born and raised in Kenya?
Okay, so I'm of Indian origin. My father was from India. My mother's family were Ugandan Indians exiled, who then were exiled into the UK after the time of Idi Amin. And but I was born in the UK, and I moved here when I was 7.
Oh, and you stayed here full time?
So I stayed here because my father was in South Sudan, so we moved out here to be closer to him.
Okay,
so we could see him more regularly. I did live 3 years in India when I was very little, but I was very small. And yeah, and then I did all my schooling here, and then I went abroad for university. Like a lot of people of my social class went abroad at that time for university. The
Where'd you
options
go?
I went to Canada,
Okay.
actually. Yeah, I didn't have any connections there, but I didn't really like the UK a lot. So I,
You were like,
okay,
okay,
let me not
Canada.
go there. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Um, so let me see.
But then I came back after university, and then I've spent the last 15 years in the region. And I
Yes,
moved back to Kenya to my home about 6 years ago, 7 years ago, something like that.
from South Sudan.
From Ethiopia. Because I was living in Ethiopia at the time.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So we've got a world traveler here.
Sounds
Yes. And one of the things that has been a bit perplexing to me about being on the continent and tapping into indigenous healing and alternative ways of being is that, at least on the surface, there doesn't seem to be many Africans in that space. Like, we did Nairobi, which was a wellness retreat a few weeks ago, and there were very few African practitioners who were on the panels, who were facilitating, and the two people who had founded Nairobi, one is African American and one is Indian descent. Kenyan Indian, yes. So I think that right there is telling. So I'm having you on because I wanted you to share, like, your perspective. At what point did you say, I'm done with this very outward way of being, and now it's time to cultivate within?
I think I just fell into it because of the choice that I made to follow my joy. And then I went through all kinds of internal processes after that. And so after I made that decision, all this fear and overwhelm came up. Like, what am I doing? I was very paralyzed for a long time. I went through what they call the dark night of the soul, where your internal energy body is releasing a lot. So you're releasing who you were, but you're not yet who you're going to be. Mm-hmm. So you get into that space. It's a lot of inner work. So the inner work really, I just started doing it. I didn't realize that was a way of being until sometime into the journey. Mm-hmm. Until maybe the last 6, 8, 9 months, I didn't realize, that's an entire way of living. Mm-hmm.
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I kind of just, it kind of evolved into this,
I want to go into how you actually work, because I mentioned that she is my spiritual advisor, and she was just told me I need to do a lot more advising. I need to see her a lot more, actually. The plan was to see her, every month. However, when you're dealing with an energy exchange, you want to make sure that people are compensated appropriately. Yes, so that's the reason why I haven't been to see you as often. However, being in your presence is healing anyway.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, so you explained to me what you do, mm-hmm. which I'll have you do that with the viewers. And I came to you and I had such a transformative experience. To this day, I can't really explain how you heal or why I felt better, but we did a couple of exercises, meditation, you held a crystal, I visited with the little girl inside. Like, there was so much, and for weeks I was just flying high, and I felt so secure. I felt like the Mother Earth had me, and there was no need for me to worry. And I think that what were the two things I went to see you about was just like professional purpose, I think, and relationships. And I just liked how real you were. Number one, professionally, because I have an online boutique. And so she was like, you're meant to do more than that. You're meant to do more than just have this online boutique. And I've been in retail since 2001, having my own brick and mortar store, etc. So that was like, oh. But I feel like Black into Africa is this
The
thing.
beginning, yeah.
I think this is the thing that I am meant to do, like you said at the beginning. And also, when I went to you about this relationship, I met this amazing human being, and you just gave it to me straight. You were like, you're attached. You're attached to this person, and basically, you need to save yourself. And the mantra that I walked away with was, I hold myself tightly because I am my own savior, which I think is something that so many people need to take away, especially women, because we are raised on this fallacy of the knight in shining armor, and yet only we can save ourselves. So talk to us about how you heal and help transform individuals.
So I basically, any healer will be doing, a true healer, yeah, will be doing the same thing in their own way, which is working with the inside, working with your deep mind, with your energy body, with your emotional body, okay, and even many with your physical body also, but going onto the inside, because what's happening on the outside is just a projection of what's going on inside you. You know, two people living in the same house, they can have completely different realities. How is that so? Two kids, twins, who are going to school are still gonna have different realities, right? Because reality is how you experience the external, and the experience is all inside of you.
Yeah.
The experience isn't on the outside. When you listen to music, it's going into you and it's making you feel something. That's an experience. When somebody's talking to you, it's the same thing. It's from the outside in, so it's your inner world. Now, your outer world is literally a very important spiritual law. And a spiritual law is not a law that doesn't apply in the physical world. It is the law that applies through all realms, physical and spiritual, which is that the physical world is a mirror of your internal world.
Wow.
Okay.
And that's why we say two people can be in the same space at the same time and have two very different experiences. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So anything you want to transform in your life, okay, you can try and change it on the outside.
Yeah.
You know, but the experience will still be the same. So the real change will not really happen. It will be like a temporarily fix.
Yep.
You know? So what I do is I work with people on the inside, and then the outside just automatically changes. I had a client like just a few weeks ago, and she lost her suitcase and keys. That wasn't why she was seeing me, but she just told me that. And the healing that we did, there was a very specific reason that her suitcase and keys got lost. There was something inside of her that didn't want that suitcase and that keys at a deep level. At a deep level.
That's
and there was
interesting.
A reason.
Yeah.
There was a reason for that. So after we did the session, I told her, I said, I'm sure your suitcase and keys will turn up. Like, the session was not even about that, but it's just to show you. The next day she messaged me and she's like, my suitcase and keys have arrived. Because her subconscious now was open to that. You see?
Why didn't her spirit, I mean, you don't have to tell me all the woman's business, but why didn't she want the suitcase and keys?
So in her subconscious mind, she didn't want to be in her own space alone. And the keys were the keys to her place. So because she didn't have the keys, she was staying with other people. So she didn't want to be alone. So when you heal that part of you, now it's okay, now it will come. Because now you're not afraid of it anymore, right? So it's, I mean, I've had so many instances where what we're doing not even so many instances, it's the whole point. To me, there's no point in changing everything on the inside if your life is going to stay the same.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I see the work that you're doing is so that Of course, you're feeling always, you're feeling so good about yourself. You're in a bliss state.
Yeah, yeah.
You're aligned with yourself.
Yeah.
You know your needs. You understand your desires, your purpose, all of these things. Yes, but also that your life evolves into the life you desire. Otherwise, why why do all the work, right?
It's really hard to just, it's difficult for me to put it into words.
Mm-hmm.
But what I can say is, after working with you, and we've only done one session,
Mm-hmm.
but after working with you, I'm just not concerned with partnering. Whereas I've gone through various stages of, do I want to be partner? Do I not want to be partner? At what level do I want to be partner? What is that? I'm just happy to be meeting beautiful people, you know? Whereas before, I think I was just real thirsty. Just out in the streets like, could he be it? Could that? Oh, maybe that,
Yeah.
I'm just in my space, and I meet these really amazing people, specifically, amazing men. And I'm just like, it's just nice having a conversation. I really don't need much else. Just at a different space in my life. And part of that was the healing that we did, right? I don't know what you did, but let's let's go into that, because you said that every healer has their own way. What is your way?
So my way is intuition. I use intuition, a to see what's going on inside the person that's causing the dysfunction or the challenge or the struggle. Okay, and then I use intuition to know how to just go in there and just transform that part.
How do you transform that part?
So with you, it was with a guided meditation, but what you could call, some people call it like shamanic journey or whatever. It's the same thing. You're going into your subconscious world, into your energy body, and you're working with it, and I'm taking you there. And I can just feel where you're supposed to go, even which part of the body you're supposed to go, and like what you're supposed to do there. And I guide you into this way of seeing your wound, so that you are now the one that heals the wound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So and I also just understand what that wound needs through the intuition. But also, like, definitely to go and see, hey, you're coming and telling me this is your issue, it's fine. So I just use the intuition to be like, okay, what's going on really? Where is this starting from? Where is the cause of this?
But you channel something too. So let me just say that, my experience with you, and I would imagine with each of your clients, it's different.
Yeah.
So I sat there probably maybe for 20, 30 minutes and just talked to you about everything that I was carrying. Of course, when you go to see a specialist, like you up to here, it's like going to the doctor. You might have so many things going on. Right. So I had a lot of things where I was just overwhelmed and walking around angsty and feeling like I was holding back tears. And so you took notes, you wrote down everything. And then at a certain point, and you asked me not to really speak so that you could tap in and channel. And then you had this crystal. What was the crystal called?
It's called selenite.
The selenite. And you held on to that, and I think that helps you channel. And then you just started speaking to me from another place. It was your voice, but it was another place. Because then afterwards, I was like, weeks later, remember when you said that? And you were like, no, I don't I don't remember saying that. Yes, you were very direct. Yeah. You were very direct. And then we did the meditation where I laid down on the floor. That was my choice. And you took me to where I could meet little Tadre. And I love little Tadre. I was like, I love this chick, and I was able to have a conversation with little Tadre. What I didn't know at the time is that there are several little Tadres. I just met with that one. And then I think so many of us, you know, we're spiritual beings in physical form. So that so many of us have this feeling that we're not protected, that we're vulnerable, that we need saving, whether it's from the government or a spouse or your children, whatever it is, money, you know. Um, and that meditation was like, you said you can meet with her anytime you want and protect her and hold her and hug her. I know this is very intangible, but you know, stay with us here. um, and so I do that, you know, especially like right after my first session. I'm just in the bed alone, the lights are out, and I'm like, let me hold little Tadre, because we need holding, we need protecting. And when you're in physical form and all kinds of shit is happening, it feels like it's out of your hands. Holding yourself and protecting yourself is vital.
And it returns you to your sense of safety, and your sense of safety returns you to your sense of power. Okay? So when you're not feeling safe, everything is just overwhelming you.
Yes.
Right? Because you're vulnerable. But when you feel safe, and you see, the only person who can really make yourself feel safe, I mean, if you have a lot of money, if you have security guards and all of that, you may have a sense of security, but it's a false sense of security, because take that away, you're not going to feel safe, you know? So most of us are not feeling safe. And so the only person who really knows how to hold ourselves and can hold ourselves with that love once you meet yourself is ourselves. That external hug is just, it's just a shadow of the internal hug, you know?
Yeah.
And so when you start feeling safe, you're like, oh wait, I have power. You remember, you know? And now your world opens to possibilities.
Yeah.
It's no longer just overwhelming. Now you're like, oh, I have power. Okay, I can do things. I can choose things. I can create things. I have gifts. You just start to, you know, one of the things that it's very clear is that you've done a lot of work. You may not have been coming for session, but you've been doing a lot of work.
Yeah.
And that has taken you into, you know, what you're doing. And what you're doing is probably your joy, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Making you excited and energized and engaged. But also it is for the service of the continent.
Yes.
And because it's in the service of the continent, it's in the service of the world. And because it's in the service of the world, it's in the service of the cosmos. So just from that holding, you see where you've come? You know?
Let me tell you, first of all, I'm trying, doing my best to stay on target, yeah? I just want to mention that I've done a lot of different types of, experienced a lot of different types of healing modalities, right? I've done NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, you know, I've done past life regression therapy, I've done your traditional therapy, hypnotherapy. I will say, for me, you know, because we're all different, I will say that alternative therapy, which would be what you do, has given me the most, I responded the best to it. I've had the most breakthroughs with that. And I remember going to you about my finances as well. And her space is so beautiful. I mean, okay, when I first pulled up, because we're going to keep it 100, I was like, I have a little scooter. I couldn't even ride my scooter down that road. What do you call it? A taka-taka road?
Yeah, the taka-taka road. Like, it means rubbish road.
Okay, so I had to park my scooter, like, next door. And then I was like, no, there's this sign on this gate and it says this, and I don't think so. On the exterior, I was like, this ain't it. This is not the place. And I journeyed into your home, and it feels so good and so warm. And everything is intentional. And then, you know, you took me out to the patio area. It's an enclosed patio. And your property is at the Nairobi River. It's adjacent to, or parallel to, the Nairobi River. So you hear the river. It's all these trees, like you feel like you're in a forest. And so through the whole process, the wind was blowing and rustling the leaves. And I just felt like Mama Earth was speaking to me.
Because she was.
And when I came out of the meditation, I just looked out of the door, because you had the what are those called? Venetian doors. They were open. The breeze was coming in, and it was like she was like, "Don't worry, I got you. Do not worry." And I left there feeling so amazing. I turned my phone back on, and there was all of these opportunities to make money. Because in this physical world, that's what we're so concerned with, right? Because now the way our world is structured today, we typically have to seek outside of ourselves to make money. So that's what we're so concerned with. And I was very concerned with that. And I was just like, what in the hell? I was like, I don't know what she did. I don't know what she did, but it worked. But really, it was what I did. You were guiding me.
Yes.
And so with your other clients, what other modalities do you use?
I use a modality called Psyche. So Psyche is where where you can just shift your subconscious beliefs in just a few minutes. Okay, so your mantra, you can just, because your conscious mind is only 5 to 10% of your mind. Most of your mind is 95. It's like 90 to 95% of your mind is subconscious. So all the limiting beliefs, all the victim kind of energy is in the subconscious, not in the conscious. So you can't really do that much change just with the conscious.
Which is the typical therapy, the talk therapy, right? That's dealing with the conscious mind.
And some of it goes into the subconscious, but you cannot, what I do is I go straight there, So with the Psyche, you can just go to the subconscious mind and change any belief you wish to, right? And then I'm using cards also now. I'm using different cards as well. I do readings with cards. I'm actually learning to do soul readings now, where you can read somebody's soul purpose, their soul's purpose, their life's purpose, because we have different lifetimes. And their past lives, and not just what happened in your past life, but what is the meaning for you? Where's the connection for the wounds, or what is it calling you to heal in this lifetime? So really about your soul holistically. So this is also something that I'm also starting to do in the sessions as well. So it really depends.
I want to do that because the physical part of me, the very practical part of me, wants to know, why am I here? And what should I be doing while I'm here? But you've helped me to realize, no, just be. And I've gotten messages from different people. No, just be, However, I have this vision that everyone on the planet is able to thrive. That's my dream. And that's actually the purpose of this podcast, of this show. I want everyone to be able to thrive, specifically speaking to people of African descent who have not been able to self-actualize outside of Africa.
I want to just go to this question you asked, because I don't feel like I answered it. I think it's really important for your viewers about the African practitioners.
Yeah, please go into that.
I think there are quite a few African practitioners.
But they're underground.
Yeah, they're also, I know I've met some very powerful African practitioners. We can call them healers, okay? First of all, it's important to know that spirituality in Africa is lived. It's not practiced. It's lived.
That's it.
Because it is about the way you welcome people into your home. It's about the way you feed that. You feed any. It's been difficult for me because I've had more of an Indian upbringing, and a more European Indian upbringing, right? So when you invite people to your home, for example, you invite them and then they come, and then you calculate how much you have to cook, and then you cook that much, right? I'm married to a Kenyan, and anybody can rock up, with 5 other people. You know what I'm saying? And for a dinner, not even just for a party, just literally for a dinner or lunch. So you could invite 3 people, but you end up having 8 So
Oh,
you, and the funny thing is, like, there's always enough.
isn't that crazy?
Because
There's always enough.
they're not calculating.
Yes.
It's not a place where you do a lot of calculation, traditionally, or in the heart
No,
of the
you're
spirit of
right.
Africa.
You're
You don't
right.
calculate. And it's interesting because traditionally, they say that, before there was a barter system. Before the barter system, they used to say there was something else. But anyways, the point is, there's a guy who's written a book, Charles Eisenstein. He's he's an intellectual, spiritual intellectual, and he was basically going and talking about how the oldest form of giving and receiving was gifting. Gifting. And that's what happened in African society still today. We have that. When you go to somebody's home, you bring fruits, you bring their chicken, or you bring, it's mostly food, things that you can use, things that are close to the earth. But you don't go without something,
Can I just tell you that this really hits home because being African American and not being from the South, I feel like those Black folks who exist in Southern America, they tend to be a bit more rooted. Yeah, and growing up, that's what I heard from my parents. Like, don't be bringing them kids up in here eating up all my food. There's a certain stinginess that I saw with my relatives that was like, oh, so-and-so is coming at 2 o'clock. I have to make sure I cook by then, I eat before they come, and the smell is out of the house so I don't have to share.
Oh, goodness.
And but it took me to live with my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, who's from Arkansas, who's from southern United States, to see that there's a hospitality is important, and there's another way to welcome people into your home. There's another way of being. And also what you said about how it's lived. It's not commodified. Like, if you're really doing the work, as Kiri, my meditation teacher, said, he's like, actually, you're really not supposed to charge for energy work. So, this way of being that is not commodified, this way of healing that is not commodified. Of course, everybody needs to eat, which is why I respect you, which is why I haven't been back, because I'm like, I look at money as an energy exchange, but there's another episode I want to do focusing on African sexuality. And Claire, someone you and I both know, who this is part of her work, her doctoral work, she's like, I know people, but I need to know why you want to do an episode about it. So there are people out there who are like, I have the knowledge, but I don't want to be exploited. I don't want it to be commodified. I'm wary about coming on to your show, so I'm glad you brought that up, because I know that we are out there, that there are African healers that are out there, they're living the work. However, we have to figure out if you really want that type of healing and the experience, you have to figure out how to access them.
So it's also to say that there's no hierarchy, okay? And this is something that I really feel about Africa. And it was on the front of the organization's website. There was a photograph that we put on the website's front page, and it was a quote by Kwame Nkrumah. And it said, it's not about whether you were born in Africa, but about whether Africa is born in you. You see, we all have so many past lives.
That's true.
And every human being originated, as far as we know, from Africa. Indians were basically the second stop on the journey of man out of Africa, right? So
there's no hierarchy, but Neha, I have to be real with you. Those of us in the global north have been ripped from our homeland, and so there is this longing to connection,
your inheritance,
right? It's in a way. Everyone doesn't feel this way. I had a deep conversation with someone else who's like, I don't feel like that, But a lot of people who are looking to connect feel motherless.
Every single human being, including myself.
Okay.
We have been disconnected. All of us have been disconnected. Not only the African American.
Sure.
We have been disconnected from our inheritance, which is the wisdom of our forefathers. That's really the inheritance. Because it was lost. I mean, the Indian tradition is great because you can still access it, because it has a lot of text, there's still a lot of teachers and blah, 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 blah. But this is the thing about the African practitioners. So I went to Mount Kenya and I was walking with a guide who's a Gikuyu. Now the Gikuyu, it actually means the wisdom keeper. Okay, they are sacred. And I asked him, have you been, are there a lot of healers in the area? He's like, I've grown up here. He's 50 years old. He's never met a Gikuyu healer. They were wiped out. They were wiped out by the missionary colonial. It was witchcraft. Interestingly, Tawdry, do you know what the word witch means? Witch comes from the word Wicca, and it's really meaning wisdom. So they were witches. Healers are witches. It's just that the meaning was transformed by the Christian missionaries. It was also intentionally, how do you say, misdefined, okay, or redefined, because there was a lot of power in the healer.
Yeah.
Because the healer can access information, right?
And you don't need Jesus to
and
do it, or your priest.
And you can't lie. And by the way, every single human being can access information through intuition. It's just that maybe healers is what we are called to do. It's what we long to do it with people. That's, I think, our calling. But every single human being has intuition and can access it if they do the work to do that. You know what I'm saying? And the work to do that is literally to do your own inner healing, because as you do your own inner healing, your energy body is cleared of blocks. And as you're cleared of blocks, you're open you're open to flow, you're open to abundance, you're open to information, you're open to wisdom. So as you said, what happens with me when I go into that, when I do readings, I'm really accessing wisdom.
From where?
I think it's just from within. It's just from within. I think that wisdom, so sometimes it works not often, but sometimes it will be channeling. Something wants to speak to you. It could be God. Once I've had somebody whose guides wanted to speak. But for me, it's just wisdom, which is within us all. And by the way, all of us have wisdom. It's our birthright. It's part of our, and we've all been disconnected. Yeah. And the African wound is probably, it's a deep wound because Africans were such spiritual beings. They were so open. So now imagine being so open with your heart and then getting beaten. But imagine being a little bit more closed or knowing how to close and getting beaten. It's different. You know what I'm saying? So there are African practitioners. What I'm seeing is that a whole bunch of practitioners are now being called into it.
Yeah.
And I think the older practitioners, there are in certain communities, and there are people, and you can find them if you look for them, but their ways are different. Their ways are the old ways. And what I meant by there's no hierarchy is between the old ways and the new ways. You see, I met an African healer. She's a wonderful woman and very powerful. And she will literally pick a plant and she'll smell it and just feel it, and she'll connect to information and understand and download what is that plant used for. So you see, when we were walking in the forest, me and her, I really realized, because the thing that I do with Spolosophy is really think about how this all makes sense and where is it taking us in our future. And it's really it's kind of like the analysis of all of this, right? I realized that we don't need the physical connection. We can connect with information, and our guides and our ancestors are constantly connected to us, giving us the information. So because there was a gap, there's been a gap, knowledge has been destroyed and lost. That's the pain and heartache of the African spirituality, is that there has been a loss, an erasure. But what I'm learning now is that we can reconnect to get that knowledge. That, yes, we can learn from elders, absolutely, and those elders will come into our sphere of reality when we are ready to receive that information. But also, we can relearn this information through through the ancestors, through the wisdom,
Through channeling.
through the inside. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, what I see is that spirituality is really rising, and in relation to Africa, I think it's rising everywhere in the world for sure, but I feel Africa has a very particular role, and that's why a number of us, like for me, I've been like when I quit my job with the panel, I could have lived anywhere in the world I wanted to, but to me, Kenya is my home. I don't know why. I don't know why. People always complain about this and that here and there, but for me, I love it here. It's my home, you know. And I'm called to live here and to make it my home, and not to claim to be African, but to claim that it is a part of me, and it is my home. And there's something here that I want to build here. I want to create here. I want to give here.
Yeah.
You know. So that wound is something that I have had also with my Indian heritage, which I had to heal. And how I did that was I connected with Vedic philosophy, for example. And a lot of people are connecting with kinetic knowledge, or, you know, there's all kinds of other things. But there are other ways to heal it, which is just continuing the inner work, because you will connect with it automatically, because that information is not locked in a physical paper. That wisdom is not limited to physical beings who are alive today. And that's not all we can access. So that's something I really want to share, that there are African practitioners, and yes, I think that it's, you know, there are other spaces where you'll find more African practitioners, other spaces where you'll find more maybe non-African, or, you know, Africans of different heritages, let's say, you know.
So I mentioned the African healer because I'm thinking about my audience, and I'm thinking about people who have never been to the continent, right? So let's just say if my audience is mostly African American, most Americans, period, have never traveled outside of the country. So then you come to Africa, and like Neha is my, you know, she's my spiritual healer, my guide. And then there's Narissa, who is also of Indian heritage, and she does these amazing sound baths, which have helped me to access past lives. And then there's Pal.
Yeah,
and then there's Pal,
lady
who is from Spain, and you know, she's helped me understand my womb and my femininity a lot more, right? So, but none of these people have my skin tone. So I just want to explain that to people, because you know, you have a very different experience than what you imagine. I'm also going to have Kiri on, and we know Kiri is Kenyan. I don't know what his ethnic group is, but whatever.
He follows the Indian traditions.
Yes. So I'm through him.
Indian traditions.
I'm learning the Brahma Kumaris yogic traditions. That's what I'm learning through him. And again, you know, what I'm learning through him is like about karmic accounts and repairing those karmic accounts. And you know, since I've been doing that, so much is just
shifting,
opening up. All of these things that are felt but not seen. You know, and it's interesting that people don't really vibe with this. Like, they don't really get it. They can't wrap their mind around it. But it's like, you know, you believe in Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, but you can't see that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? My Bluetooth is working, and you know, it's interesting. But anything else that has you, you know, reach outside what you understand as major religious thought, it's like, ooh, that the devil's gonna get me.
I want to just comment on something you said, because you talked about Kiri, and then Kiri, you know, like he's teaching an Indian tradition, and it really made me remember something so important. So yes, connecting to your ancestry is very healing. Connecting to your past lives, which have different ancestry, is also very healing. Just connecting is healing, you know. And the other thing, there's a guy called Baha'u'llah. He's the founder of the Baha'i faith. Baha'i faith is basically a multi-ethnic religion, right? And it takes from all traditions and deems all traditions, true in their own way, right? And it combines kind of wisdom and teachings. But basically, the mission of the Baha'i faith is basically to unite the world. And you see, this is something that is also, and you can talk about the new earth. You see, where I'm really feeling we are where we are going is that we're going into where our differences are our beauty, and we can connect with different things because they resonate with us at different times, and because we have different inheritances, yes, in this life, but also different inheritances in past lives, and that's why we can connect to different traditions. And what's to me really beautiful is that all the traditions are now open and available, and so we can really curate our journey as we deem resonant with ourselves.
I like how you said curate, because when I was living in Kampala, I was walking distance from the Baha'i temple in Kampala, which is a beautiful one. Like, there's Baha'i temples in a lot of continents, or in every continent actually, except for maybe Antarctica or something.
Yeah, maybe.
But they're not all gorgeous. This was a beautiful temple, really kind of surrounded by a slum. And someone tried to recruit me previously, someone I was in the Peace Corps with in Namibia. She tried to recruit me and I never did. And I was like, oh, it's not just a coincidence that I'm living so close to the Baha'i temple. Let me go check it out. So that would be part of my morning walk. And I was with it, like everything makes sense. Equality, blah, blah, blah. But then you're praying to somebody you've never met before, and is it a Persian guy, a couple of Persian guys? I was like, nah, I can't.
Yeah, it doesn't resonate.
Right, that. But the equality and the egalitarian, yes, that resonated with me. So again, curating.
So you can go and learn from the Baha'i faith and not necessarily pray with them in their temple. Right. Or you can go and be in their temple and be part of their activities. Yeah. And then do your prayers in your home by yourself when you're connected. I mean, the point is that all of these are gateways. And we use different gateways at different times. And so for me, connecting with my past lives, seeing different things about it, I'm realizing, oh, that's why I love this. That's why music is so important. That's why dance makes me feel so good, because of these other things about ourselves. So I do feel like Africa as a whole has a lot of healing has to happen here, because the African psyche is very wounded. And I think that's here in Africa and probably in diaspora communities like in America. And I think what I feel is like I feel that we cannot say there is God. So this is to traditional people who believe in the concept using the word God. But then bad thing happens which God didn't want. That doesn't logically go together. No. Okay. So the way that I understand these painful experiences is that, for me, I feel like some of the African spirit had to go and travel to that land, okay? And there was a lot of pain in that journey, but there was also the picking up of certain things and the creation of a lot of things, like African Americans have created global music. You know what I'm saying, for example, right? They have created sounds that have healed a lot of people around the world, Not only that, but technology as well. Technology, yeah. I mean, so many things, right? Yeah. So they had to go, and what you're doing is saying, hey, also come home and connect here, But the thing is, what you're doing is part of God's plan, or what you could also say it is. You are playing a role in the divine dance. You're playing one note in the divine song, which is the call for the return, because that is calling. You cannot be calling. It is some energy that is calling through you. The return of people who are feeling called to. Yeah. And those people look very different. They have a lot of different ancestry. They're very mixed, you know what I'm saying, in ancestry as well. But something's going to call them because their presence is needed here. Because this continent for me is rising.
Well, I'm glad you say that. That kind of helps me out because, you know, a lot of Black people will be coming to Africa to get away from white people. I'm just going to be real.
Yeah.
You know, and then you come here and white people are having a ball.
Yeah.
And they're having a ball. They're in, you know, relative abundance.
Yes.
And you know, and privilege. And they've been here for generations, right? Some. So I like that, helps me like understand, okay, or conceptualize better. Okay, people are being called here because I think we are getting ready to elevate and go on a different journey.
Mm-hmm. And to me, it's potentially possible that Africa, because you see, I always see the continents and the people of the continents having different energies, okay, and different gifts. Now that doesn't, remember past lives, so remember that we're not all just what we look to be today, okay?
True.
But I feel like, for example, the Indians, the power was the mind, the intellect. We were very rigorous about our spiritual discourse and theory. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And it was a very disciplined practice of spirituality. If you've experienced Raja Yoga, you know, it's very disciplined, right?
It is, yeah.
And then we have the Easterners, and for me, the Easterners was really about the grace of living. If you see how they move, how they eat, how they engage, it's very graceful. You know what I'm saying? And then I feel like the white folk, I don't know if they're a race, but they're probably originally one race kind of thing. The Vikings and Nordics. For me, it's like they had the power of doing. You know,
yeah,
they
that's
really
what we
were
all
doing.
Just the doing.
And that is a power, but it has its place.
Okay.
Just like the intellectual has its place. Just like the graceful, you know, the life of grace has its place. And then for me, the Africans were really the beers, the ones who embodied spirituality through the body, you know.
And the Americans?
The natives, to me, were the wisdom keepers and people of the land, you know.
Yeah.
They were really connected to the wisdom of earth, of the land. So each one has a different gift, right? And if you think about it, we've been in this time of doing, and that time is now ending. So what is rising? To me, we've had the time of the intellectual. We've had the time where the India was at the peak of civilization and learning and was spreading all the information, and it's played an important role. Yoga has played a huge role in everybody's healing. Going to like do some yoga to even dancing, doesn't even matter. It has changed people's energy. So it's opened this up for the world, right? And then, but now we have to come back into our bodies. We have to come back into being, into embodying divinity, you know? And so for me, that's why Africa is playing a very, you know, important role in the the renewal of the world.
I like that. So we covered a lot today. We went pretty deep. For our viewers, if they were to come to Kenya specifically, what would be the best way for them to tap into the spiritual world in Kenya?
I would say, you know, Conscious Kenya is a great starting point.
Which is a WhatsApp group. Oh, but they also have
it's a website. It's a whole platform.
That's
it's a digital platform for all practitioners. Okay. So that's a really great way, because there's a lot of events, there's a lot of things that you can, you know, come into. But I would also say follow your resonance. You know, follow the people that resonate with you. And also, like, yeah, I mean, if you, for example, seek to go and see an elder, an African elder, seer, healer, you can just ask through this community, let's say the younger community, you know, and they will always help you to find, because there's always somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who will help you to find that fish for yourself. But the most important thing to know is that you're a soul, you know, you're a soul. So yes, you have many layers of identities, many layers of lives, many layers of races, many layers of loves, many layers of passions. Follow your resonance, because that's really taking you on the journey that's right for you. You know?
That's so powerful. That is so powerful. Just go where you are led.
And where your heart is calling you.
Yes.
What are you feeling like you want to see?
And that's worked for me in so many ways, where maybe I've passed by a place, let's say Brahma Kumaris. You know, it's a lotus. The building is in the shape of a lotus. And I've passed by there so many times, and I always say, I wonder what that is. And then, stuff like that can happen to me for years. I wonder what that is. I wonder what that is. And then an occasion will happen where, like, there's an event there, something. And I go inside and I'm just like, this is why I was meant to be here. This is why I was meant to come here. It just all unfolds. Exactly. Yes. So now, Neha is going to bless us with a reading. Yes. Yeah. But it'll be a reading for everyone.
Yes.
Okay.
So what I see here is that it's kind of saying it's about time, okay? It's saying it's now time. That it's for whoever is watching out there, the message is it's now saying that it's about time. There's a clock that's ticking in you, and it's kind of just aligned. So it's time. If you're watching this video and if you're listening to this message, then there's a message for you that it's time now. There's something in yourself that has just gone click, okay? And it's saying now to be now going into this, because it's clicking for you, going into this, you're going on a journey within yourself. You're going on a journey to your higher self. You're going on a journey to find your truth. You're going on your journey to really know who you are and what your purpose is. And it's important to be aware of the energy. Like, it's now important to surround yourself with good energy. It's now important to give yourself good food. It's important to give yourself deep music. Not listen. It's important for you now to start curating your energy. Okay. So it says surround yourself with protective energy. So that's just it's really about curating your energy.
And for people who are only getting the audio, what card is that?
So it says arrow, and it says surround yourself with protective energy. But the message is more, the information can often be different than what the card actually says. But I am getting something from the words themselves, okay? So curate your energy and know that something is clicked and something is calling you, okay? Because that might be a little bit making you a little bit nervous. What does that mean? Something is calling me. Where is that taking me? And all of that. This card is kind of the Mother Earth goddess, and you see, she is holding up her hands, and she has a jewel in her hands. And what she's showing is that I am holding you safe. She's protecting you. So she's there watching over you, and she's. And I think what she's saying is the blessings are for this journey that you're going to take. And it will create a lot of abundance, okay? Abundance, look at the beautiful colors of the peacock. That is really abundance. Abundance is not necessarily a Ferrari and, 20 bottles of champagne. It's about that the power and the beauty that is in nature, in that creation, in that divine creation. And that abundance is something everybody else can drink from, but also you are living in it and with it. It's living a rich life. It's not the same thing as having a lot of riches. It's living a rich life. So what it's saying is that this is the abundance card, in the sense of this goddess is there for you as you go on this journey. That you're going to step into this world of creating abundance. You're going to step into abundance, in the world of abundance. And that she's there and she's got you, and she's our Mother Earth is there holding you. So not to be afraid. So that is dealing with the fear, and the other is saying to release your inner desires, to let go of this bird that you've been holding caged within you. It's saying to let your soul go, let it be free. Stop forcing it to be doing things that are practical or safe or comfortable, but now to allow your inner desires to be free. And you can see that the inner desires, there's this beautiful sacred geometry behind this, around this bird. And it's showing you the energy of your inner desires, that your inner desires are actually they're creating pure energy. They create deep vibration, your inner desires. So they are spiritual. Your inner desires are spiritual. So it's saying to set them free. And the card does also talk about learn from spiritual experiences, that these inner desires are going to be your teacher, because you're going to go on journeys if you allow them to be free. They will take you into knowledge and experience that you're going to learn a lot from. So the great teacher is yourself, is your inner being, is your soul. That's the great teacher. So that's the message for all of you. It's basically saying, you are being called, and you're safe, and your greatest teacher is yourself.
Wasn't she absolutely amazing? Thank you for joining us on this episode of Blacks into Africa. If you liked what you heard, please share and leave a review. May you thrive. May you be inspired. May you move with love and intention. Until next time.